Hey guys, welcome back to another video. It's good to be back. And today we're going to be talking about managing your roster, taking into account GP. This is something that isn't as well known throughout a lot of the players of the game, and it's something that's extremely vital as a strategy for building your roster in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes in order to make sure that you're not going to be hurting your own game's performance, your own matchmaking in Grand Arena, and also further than that, your guild in Matchmaking Territory War in particular. So we're going to get into all of that now. Um, let's take a look. So here we go into my roster for my Celestiam account, my alt account. This is the one where I have started using this strategy, and before I go any further guys, what I do want to do is just mention that all of this information I got from a fantastic video from Bulldog over on YouTube. If you guys want to have a sift through his YouTube account and find that video, I really recommend it. Everything I'm about to tell you there, he sort of covers in that video, and his account, his roster at the time that he did that video is a really nice example of the roster building strategy that we're going to talk about. So highly recommend you jump over there as well if you've got some time to spend on YouTube. Now, here we go. So let's have a look through my account. We'll start down here, looking at the number of relics that I've got. These are the relic characters that I have. Little Geo Soldier down here straggling in the back. And the amount of galactic power that I've got. Now this isn't bad. It's a little high, really, my galactic power for the amount of relic characters that I've got. And the reason why it is a few things that we're going to talk about more in depth. And that is because these relic levels have been added on top of the fact that they're Gear 13. And I've got Zetas on all of these guys. Zetas are extremely expensive in terms of GP. And because, again, I didn't know about this strategy when I first activated this account and kept working on it for a few months, so some mistakes were made at the start. But it's a reasonable amount. I've tried to stay onto this strategy as much as possible as soon as I heard it. And it's for this amount of GP, 1.8 million, it's a reasonable amount of relic characters, and I'm hopefully going to get more and more and more whilst keeping this as low as possible. So that's essentially the goal here. That's the strategy. We want to have a smaller amount of squads that are maxed out in their gear in terms of gear levels. So we want them to be G13 at a minimum and actually at a sweet spot. And if you're going to be using those characters in other modes that require them to be more highly relic, you can go ahead and do that. We're going to cover being extremely sparing with our use of Zeta abilities and Omega abilities. And we're going to be talking about not activating. You can see a couple of examples here, characters that you're not ready to start gearing. Alright, here's some examples of characters that I've activated that I'm not exactly using just yet because they're level 1, they've got no gear on them. Really, these guys shouldn't be activated at all, any of these guys, but there's no point in worrying about what's happened now. That's in the past. We've just got to move forward, stick to the strategy as much as possible, and keep that GP lower. Okay, so let's have a look at the squad tab here. If you haven't gone down here, this is a great little Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes tip if you aren't onto this. Click this tab here and you can preset your squads, alright? So when you first look at this, you're going to see the tab to assign and create a squad selection. Go ahead and press that assign button. It'll bring you to all your characters. You can filter them however you want, and then assign your squad, save it, and it will appear here in your squad management tab. So you can see here I've got my Padme. This is my current squad arena team. It's fully relicked, fully Zated as well. Down here, we have a Jedi Knight Revan team. Just waiting to relic Ezra, and I will do that because I've assigned him this Zeta, right? Geonosians are almost done. I'm waiting on that silly gear that you can't farm in order to do Problem the Lesser up to G13. And then as we go down here, so Bosk, for my account in particular, I really wanted his ship, the Houndstooth, and if you haven't got the Houndstooth yet, I highly recommend that you get onto that farm. You're also going to get your Jango Fett shards there, I believe, so it's a kind of good 2-for-1 deal farming that hard node. Get your Houndstooth, get your Bosk. It's probably still the best ship in the game, and we'll see what happens with the Razor Crest when it comes out. And, various YouTubers do their testing with that, but for now, definitely the Houndstooth is the ship that you want to have in order to advance your fleet arena as much as possible. And so to do that, I've just sort of brought up some other bounty hunters. A lot of these guys are required in order to unlock the Millennium Falcon as well, so that's why I have this team here. However, I will be coming back to it, dropping a few of these guys off for different, more powerful bounty hunters, Mandalorian, Orasing, etc., Grief Karga. And we'll change this up. Bosk and Jango will stay in here, and then I'll take that all the way up to G13. Phoenix here. This is a mixed match Phoenix team. Obviously Ezra was here, but he's getting used in the Revan team. These guys won't go any higher than this. They were only taken this far in order to get me access to my 7-star Thrawn. These guys here really shouldn't be at this level. This is the kind of squad level that I'm talking about that really hurts your GP. Here's another good example in Grievous. You know, these two guys, these two squads, rather, were not really needed for, not that they're not needed, but I'm not up to them. I don't have the ability to put all of my resources into one of either of these teams at the moment, and so they're all sitting there, especially Vader with his Merciless Massacre Zeta, as inflated GP. Okay, if I didn't have these two teams, I'd probably drop my GP down by, I mean, we can see 71,000 plus 68, so you know, about 150,000 GP there that I don't really need to have in my account. These guys here were inevitable. I needed that in order to get Jedi Knight Revan unlocked, and this was to get C-3PO unlocked. This is my little Separatist team that I'll be working on soon. So there are some examples of squads that you're going to have to moderately gear. Eventually these guys will come up to gear 12 in order to unlock Darth Revan and also Darth Malak. But there are some squads that are unavoidable. Ewoks is another great example that you're going to have to bring up, but that you're not going to take to G13, because taking them any further than required in order to unlock the character and the journey guide that you're going for is not going to be of benefit to your account, simply because the mechanics of the team are just so easy to beat with so many other counters that are available in the game. Ewoks is a perfect example of that. If I wasted a lot of my resources, a lot more expensive gear, taking all my Ewoks up to G13, and someone can just come in and solo them with an Emphas Nest at gear 12, you can see that that's totally a useless team for me. It's not going to be doing a good job, and you know, some people will use this for countering crew, but really I can do that with this level here. That it's not needed to be G13 in order to do that. So these moderately geared characters that you can see I have down here, although there are exceptions, are what we need to try and avoid. Alright? The optimal situation is that when you start a team, you put it in your favorites so that it appears up the top here, and you can do that by just clicking on a character, and this is your little favorites flag here. So if I tick that off, Stormtrooper Han will no longer be in my at the top of my roster. He's going to sit back in order of his power level, or if I click him, he's going to come to the top, and I know that this is a character that I'm working on currently at the moment. Put them in your favorites tab, and hopefully you're only working on like 1 squad, 2 squads maximum at a time. Alright? Now, this becomes easier once you've completed all of your light light side and dark side and cantina battles so that they're simmable, and also the same for your fleets. We're going to concentrate on characters for now, but obviously all of this translates over to fleets as well. And the aim of the game here is always just to keep this galactic power level down. So what's the advantage in doing that? Okay, well the first one is your Grand Arena matchmaking. If I have a very low galactic power, but tons and tons and tons of G13 plus characters, or squads rather here that I can use, and I set my Padme on defense, and I'm up against an account of a similar GP level, but with their resources spread across many, many more teams that have only been really brought up to, between gear level 8 and 10 is typical with a couple of Zetas on them. There's no way any of those teams are going to be able to beat my Padme squad. He can dump about 20 of those teams in, you know what I mean? And none of them will get past Kenobi. And for me to go in and take my other teams in is easy attacking, you know what I mean? I pretty much just click auto. I really am just looking for their squad arena team. I take that out with whatever I want to attack with, and then from there it's just finishing them off quickly. Now the caveat that I do have to say here is that obviously they're going to have a lot more teams to choose from in this list here than I'm going to if I'm making sure that I'm only bringing up teams at a time that I'm prepared to go all the way to G13 with. However, you're going to be more defensive in your strategy for your grand arenas and stuff like that, okay? And it's just going to take a little bit of experimenting, some hits and misses to see, what teams you're going to devote to attacking and defending, and obviously it's going to depend on your opponent's roster as well, what good counters you have and all that kind of stuff. And you're going to find yourself absolutely demolishing your way through your grand arena with a low GP and a high number of relic characters. Now, we've covered a few things here. Let's just reiterate them. So we're not activating characters that we've collected shards for, because every time I do activate one, it's going to be an extra little chunk of GP that's going to get added to my total. And every time I activate one of those characters, it's just a little bit each time, but the more that I do it, the higher and higher that GP goes. And so, if my computer will let me take you guys down here, a lot of mistakes made, unfortunately, here for my account, a lot of level 1s. None of these guys should be activated, but you can see here I have rows and rows and rows and rows of characters unactivated, even though I've got the shards for them, because I'm not ready to work on them yet. Okay, if I'm not going to apply the gear onto these characters straight away, there's no reason for them to be active, adding to my total galactic power here. The other situation where this strategy is really, really going to help is your guild's territory war. Now, we want to keep our GP as efficient as possible, right? It doesn't matter if it's high or low as a guild, the GP, as long as it's efficiently used GP. Again, those moderate level, G8 to G10 accounts with squads with Zetas on them everywhere are going to just be walked through easily, because really until you've got these guys up to G13, they're not going to be hard to beat. And if we're getting matched with other guilds in our territory war strategy that have got a far more efficiently used GP level, they've got a higher relics, they've got better mods, they've all of these things that contribute to what your GP is going to be, then we're going to be at a severe disadvantage, because we're not going to be able to beat their squads and they're going to be able to walk easily through ours. Okay, so another thing is not putting any mods on squads that you're going to use. Again, mods are going to add GP, they add power to your characters. So if you're not using a squad, It's not modded, it's not geared, it's not even activated. Right? And if it's not activated, you don't have to worry about mods being on it. Now, the last, well, not really the last thing, but something we need to talk about quite a lot is the difference in the GP spike between applying gear level 13 to a character and applying a Zeta to a character. So when I equip a Zeta to a character, you can see here the Jedi Knight Revan's got 3. When you do one of these Zeta abilities, you're going to be adding at least 2,000 GP to that character just in applying that ability. And as you guys probably all know by now, there are a lot of useless Zeta abilities in this game. You don't need that many. And if you're being sparing with your Zetas, you'll know it, because you'll go across to your Zeta thing here and you can see I've got a stockpile of 219 Zetas, because I'm not using Zetas when I get them. If you've got, like, if you're always trying to scrape together 20 Zetas, you're doing it wrong. Alrighty. I've also got like 100 Omegas sitting there, you know what I mean? Because I'm not using Omegas, I'm not using Zetas, I'm not using even these purple mats to upgrade abilities on characters that I'm not yet ready to have their squads, all my resources dumped into that squad to take them all the way up as quickly as possible to G13. Now, by contrast, taking somebody up from gear level 12, where you can see Poggle the Lesser is, to gear 13 is like a 400 GP increase, and the amount of bang for your buck that you're going to get in that character's efficacy, its power essentially when you're using it in game in your various game modes. That return is going to be so much more than you're going to get out of the average Zeta, and for a lot less GP. So, the math there is pretty simple. Get as many G13s as you can happening, and the least amount of Zetas that you can. And so a mistake that I see so many people making is, if they've got a team with multiple leaders in it, Jedi Knight Revan's such a great example. He's got a leader ability, Bastila Shan's got a leader ability, Yoda's got a leader ability. If I had Zetas on these two leaders, that's another 5,000 GP around about that this team would have, and that my total galactic power would have, that is not being used because these guys are all under only one leadership. So for those guys that don't know, only your leading character's leadership ability is actually going to be activated in a battle. If I had a Zeta on Bastila, it would be doing 0 for this team right now, because she's not sitting in the leader slot, which is the first character slot right here. So with Padme, she's the leader. With Geonosian Brood Alpha, they're the leader. Okay? So, be sparing with your Zetas. Don't apply Zetas to teams that don't need them. Don't do redundant leader abilities. Don't do bad Zetas. There's a lot of Zetas out there that aren't going to read them carefully. Read what you're going to get for applying this 2,000 GP increase to this character, and just sort of critically ask yourself, is this going to give me a return that's going to make that GP worth it, right? So one example where I've screwed that up is in a moment of weakness applying a Zeta to Ezra. You know what I mean? It's not a great Zeta. It's not worth that amount of power, but I am at least using him there. Another one here is Bosk, when I'm not really ready to sort of go all in on this bounty hunter team right now. However, this one I kind of think is a bit of an exception, because I use the Hound's Tooth in my Fleet Arena team, and I am currently working on unlocking the Millennium Falcon all the way, which requires the rest of these bounty hunters here. So this team sort of has some use to me as only a moderately geared team right now. And here's another one, Vader. He really shouldn't have this Zeta yet. Merciless Massacre is a great Zeta, so that's why I applied it. However, this team is still easily walked over because of its gear level right now. I don't have the resources to be able to, properly G13 the primary squad or squads that I'm working on, and also, dump the occasional thing on here, because that's a classic mistake that's going to inflate your GP. Grievous really shouldn't be up here. This is just another 68,000 GP that doesn't need to be on my account. However, these ones are going to come up very soon, because I'm going all in on Separatists at the moment to prepare for the Genosian TBs. These guys here were only taken up this far to get Jedi Knight Revan. These guys here to get C-3PO. So, there's always going to be exceptions, especially for required characters throughout the journey guide when you're trying to unlock a really good legendary character. And there's required characters that you have to use in their event. You're obviously only going to take them if they're a bad squad, like Old Republic. It's not a great squad. It's, so many counters out there to this squad. You just gear it to get your Revans and your Darth Malik. You know what I mean? Otherwise, no one playing this game well would would have this squad geared up. Okay. So yeah, the main areas of the game that this is going to affect is your Grand Arena Championships here, and your Guild's Territory War. Okie dokie. So you want to keep that GP down. Really, the only time that an inflated GP can ever help is during a TB, during deployments. Even then, there's really an argument to be made against it, which is a valid one. Is that, if you've only got those moderate level teams, especially now that we're doing Genosian Darkside, if you just saved that gear and put it on 1 or 2 teams, and you were able to, beat 4 out of 4 on those combat missions, rather than just a 1 out of 4, all different places with only moderately geared teams, then you'd be contributing even more points to the TB as well. So even that argument really isn't a great one. But hopefully I've covered everything for you there, guys. We'll quickly go back over it again. We've talked about assigning squads in here, which is a nice little tip. So you can assign your squads, and then you've got them throughout all of the game modes. You can just click that squads tab, come here, say this is the team I want to use, and go ahead. By the way, you've also got these little tabs here, so you can, this one I've got for 3v3 Grand Arena, and this one for 5v5 Grand Arena, and I also use this tab for basically everything else that I'm going to do. You can create as many of these as you like for whatever scenarios that you want. You can tick this little box here to make sure that you're not doubling up characters when you're designing your squads. We've talked about favoriting characters with this little tab here. If you just toggle that one on, your character that you're working on is going to come to the top of your roster ahead of all your more powerful characters, and you'll know that these are the ones that you're working on right now. We've talked about keeping our total galactic power down by using a strategy whereby, one, we're being extremely sparring with our application of Zetas. We're being critical in the Zetas that we're actually going to be applying. We're not going to be applying Zetas to abilities that aren't giving us a return, and the reason being is because of that 2000 GP on average spike that we're going to get after we apply a Zeta map. In comparison to taking someone up to gear level 13, this is not including relics, by the way. This is just going from gear 12 to gear 13. Around about a 200 to 400 increase in your GP in comparison to 2000. The math is really easy, and the return on having a gear 13 character in comparison to a Zeta character is ridiculous. Gear 13 is far more powerful than most Zetas. And we've talked about just working on one squad at a time. We've talked about not activating characters that you are not ready to work on yet. And again, there's plenty of examples of, in my roster here where I've done that before I've learned about how to use this strategy. And the other thing that I would just say to you guys in closing is that don't worry about the mistakes that you've made on your account now. Unfortunately, it'd be great if we could, but we can't unassign gear, unassign Zetas, and bring their power level back down and then put those resources into another character that we'd rather be using. So if it's done, it's done. But what you want to do is just stop making those common mistakes now that are inflating your GP and not helping your roster for your own personal gameplay performance and also for your guild's performance in various guild events as well. Okay guys, that's it for that video. Obviously I'm posting these up on YouTube, so you guys would be taken over to my account there on YouTube when you're watching these videos. I would really appreciate it if you just click the subscribe button there for me, just to, you know, get that account building up a bit. Possibly in the future these videos might stretch out to you know, seek to target a wider audience. For now, obviously, it's mainly for the guild, but they are being posted publicly, so anyone can watch them and get some information about how to play Galaxy of Heroes that might be helpful to them. So yeah, if we do want to grow this account in the future, it helps if you subscribe and if you like the videos, if you comment on them, if you want to. And other than that, there's another text channel in the Discord now that you can go ahead and look at to give me any feedback on these videos. You can ask for content that you want me to cover in future videos, and obviously all of that is much appreciated, guys, in the future. So that's it from me for now. Thanks for coming along. I will see you around in the guild and in the next video. Cheers.